Hi, I'm James from J Cycles.
My name's Ash.
And today we're going to talk about how to prepare your bike for winter.
Go.
So today we're going to talk through some few tips and tricks on how to maintain and look after your bike and keep your bike in a good condition throughout the deepest, darkest winters that we're all just about to kind of go through. Just in terms of kind of basic maintenance, changing, from summer to winter. The first kind of things first is the lubrication you use for your bike. So
typically you'd want to change through to a wet lube coming into the winter, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows from there. As you know, stuff will get kicked up off at road, it'll start sticking to your chain, so it's kind of take a little bit more time cleaning your bike when you get a bit of spare time, re-lube it, clean it down, and everything should be rolling sweet from there. It just takes a little bit more pro-action from yourself.
So how often would you say to lube and then clean off that and then re-lube? How often would you say to do it?
So it is a bit of a broad question. There's a lot of different types of riders that, obviously ride bikes. So a lot of people are out there every day on the bike. Sometimes some people it's just, once a week, once a weekend. So it's kind of on yourself to kind of realise how much you are using the bike and just every now and again, just have a good look over your bike. If something seems really filthy, it probably needs a good clean. If it's still clean, keep going. Vice versa.
Yeah. So when you start to see, excess kind of grime and that kind of black gunk, that's probably the time to start cleaning off. And then on the other side of that, what about if you start to see rust in certain areas?
So if you do start to see rust, like especially on your chain and your, obviously your cassette rings and everything on the rear, it's probably a good sign that you're going to start needing to possibly replace things or definitely take them off and give them a really good inspection and clean. When rust does manage to take over, it's not a good thing.
So in terms of cleaning bikes, what we recommend is no power washers, no up close, high powered hoses into any kind of mechanical parts. Use cleaner, use any kind of cleaner. We sell various different, bike cleaners. Using a cleaner and ideally, bucket and sponge is the perfect way to do it. And but then, with a hose from a little bit of a distance is the best possible thing. In terms, most bikes now come with disc brakes. Try keep as much product in terms of cleaning products, in terms of oil, in terms of all that kind of stuff away from discs. We've all been there. In terms of contaminating and you get squeaky brakes, it's horrendous. If you do, it's also good practice when cleaning a bike with discs to have disc brake cleaner. We sell, from various different types of disc brake cleaner. When you've cleaned off the bike, clean the discs with a specific disc brake cleaner. And then,
It definitely takes it a long way of just spending half an hour on an evening or a morning. As James has just said, with a bucket and a sponge, doing things by hand. The more you do things, by hand and you're taking time to clean these parts of your bike, the more you're going to see if anything's wrong with it. You're going to come across, if you've had any problems, you're going to spot them before they get worse. Also, really, it drives hard home that you keeping on top of the bike maintenance-wise just keeps the bike happy, keeps you happy, and parts running for a lot longer. It goes a long, long way.
So, moving on to a couple of telltale signs that that some parts on your bike need replacing. We're just going to run through a couple of different areas to keep an eye on and little kind of little tricks to make sure that everything's running smooth. So, on 99% of bikes, you've got 4 or 5 different types of bearings, different areas with bearings. More often than not, these are sealed units, sealed bearings that can be replaced very easily. So starting from the front, from the top end of the bike, you've got your headset. So that's your steering bearings. You've got your headset bearings, which are here. You then move on to your wheel bearings, which are here, and your bottom bracket bearing, which is there. So normally you would have four bearings in the back.
4 or 5.
2 bearings in the front, 2 bearings here, top and bottom, and then 2 bearings in the bottom bracket area.
Yep.
A good telltale sign to know when these are getting ready to replace is play.
Yeah.
So play in any of these areas is a telltale sign of needing to start, they're seizing up or needing to replace them.
So good form moving forward if you are wanting to, check over your bike to see if anything is starting to wear out. You kind of want to check 5 key points of the bike, so to speak. Definitely starting with the rear wheel. So if you just want to rock it left to right, if there is any movement in there, it's a good sign that you want to be having a look into that, why that movement's there, see if it just needs nipping up, see if something's come loose, or as we've just been discussing, stuff's wearing out. And the same goes for each of the key areas. So same for the bottom bracket, if there's any movement in there, same again, definitely get that looked at. It could just be loose, it might need replacing. Same for the headset, same for the front wheel. And I did mention 5 before, I always count the seat post as 1. Make sure that's tight and, it's not going to move on you in a ride because that's not nice. Over time, stuff does come loose and it does need torque checking from time to time, and just kind of go over anything that you're holding on to or sitting on the bike or anything that's rolling. You really do want to just make sure that's not moving. Everything's nice and sturdy for your ride. The most common thing that we see to be replaced in the workshop would be anything to do with the drive chain, so to speak. So a couple of different types of cassettes and a couple of different types of chains do require a little bit more maintenance or earlier changing, like more frequent. So if you are using a full steel cassette, they do recommend on 11 speed and below that you change it up to 0.75 on a chain wear indicator. Anything with titanium or aluminium rings, such as your Miche or Dura-Race cassettes, they recommend changing that at to 0.5. And then again, if you're on a 12 speed drive chain, always replace that at 0.5. The slightly slimmer chain does wear out very marginally faster, but it's much better to be on top of it and change it before it becomes a problem. If you don't change your chain in time, a lot of the time you'll find in some of the harder pedaling gears, your chain will skip once you have replaced it. It just doesn't gel together well anymore. So it's much cheaper to buy a 20, 25 pound, 30 pound chain than it is to have to buy the same chain rings up front, chain rings in the rear, and your jockey wheels. So once again, it just goes a long way just being a bit proactive around how frequent you do change these parts and keeping on top of them. Obviously, as you are riding through winter, as you're riding through summer, stuff does wear out, but in winter, you do, as we've noted, you do get quite a build-up of just crud off the road. That turns into a grinding paste over time. Longer it's left unsorted, it then becomes much more, wears out components much more quickly.
Okay, so moving back onto the braking area and the brakes on bikes, this particular bike does have disc brakes, but a couple of telltale signs to depend, no matter what bike you're on, to watch out for in terms of braking. Brakes on rim brake bikes, on normal caliper bikes, do have wear indicators. All pads have a wear indicator on them, so that's a faint line on the pad. Once it gets close or onto that, you need to think about starting to change those. We always recommend, if you're using rim brakes, to check the pad itself and make sure that there's no bits of metal or anything in those pads, before most rides, just because that will increase hugely, by a huge amount, how fast your rims wear out. So really keep an eye on that. A basic, very simple way to check is actually how much movement how much travel the lever has. So that's how much the lever pulls back to the bar. As you can see with this one, it doesn't travel very far. If you're starting to get the lever coming back towards the bar, something's wrong. You need to have a look at the brake pad wear, and that's the same applies for disc brakes. There are no wear marks or indicators on disc brakes, but a really good telltale sign is how much movement you're getting in the lever. If you're getting much more than when your bike was new, or as you kind of remember, then you need to have a look at the pads there. In terms of the discs are very easy to change into spot wear. You shouldn't be getting a huge amount of wear from the discs unless, again, something's been picked up in the pad. But visually, just check the disc check for scoring, check for any lips. Any lips mean any kind of wear marks where excessive wear has created something that's not a flat surface in your rim or your disc. That's a very, very easy to spot something. If it's not flat and level, then something again needs changing and needs looking at. Moving on to the wheels and tyres, we've discussed bearings. They're something that I always wear out, definitely in the winter. A very, very key thing to check also, and a key thing for performance of the bicycle, is spoke tension also, which can easily get distorted during hard winter riding. What's the best way to check the spoke tension?
A really good way to check spoke tension is to literally pluck it like it's a guitar string. You will get quite an obvious tone on the spoke, so to speak, so I'll do it with this one. So you kind of want to work your way around the wheel and just make sure, like kind of do it independently of each side of the wheel. So the spoke tension on one side to the other will differ, but you should be getting the same noise all the way around on both sides, be it a little bit different in pitch. But yeah, that's a really good indicator. If you do get one that kind of, it's just very dull, it kind of sounds like you're just plucking rubber, you've got a problem. So yeah, just keep on top of spoke tension. It's something really easy to sort out, but it's definitely something that it needs to be picked up on. If you can hear squeaks or creaks, most of the times it's down to the wheels or spoke tension and just something's not working right, or it's rubbing up against itself because it's a little bit too slack.
So then going onto tyres and tubes, many people are now moving towards tubeless for winter riding especially. You know, there's a huge increase in punctures during winter road riding, definitely, and also winter gravel riding and even winter mountain biking. So most people are running tubeless. What we would say is most tyres do have wear indicators, so check the wear indicators. What they look like are normally small little indents in the tyre itself, so in the top of the tyre, that'll basically be a couple of mil deep, and once you cannot see these indentations, then it's time to replace the tyre because the rubber is running out on the tyre. So look out for those. A good tip is in the winter, if your bike can accommodate it, go for a wider tyre. So this bike's got 30C tyres on, nice wide tyre. What that means is you can run lower pressures and you get more grip in all different conditions. But most of the time you're finding that the road is wet or definitely is holding some moisture. Bigger contact patch on the road, which comes with a wider tyre, is going to help you. If you're riding in ice and stuff like that, then obviously it's different. But 100%, if you can use a wider tyre, you're going to get more grip, which is better for winter riding. Keep on top of them. Check them for, little nicks, which can happen with, bits of glass and, and such sharp stones. Keep an eye on those, and that will mean that you're not going to get midway through a ride, hopefully, and puncture. If you're checking your tyres before every time, most of the time you'll pick something up before it gets you on a ride. So definitely that's one of the key things to do to make your winter riding better, more enjoyable, and have less issues.
Yeah. So at this time of year, we do get a lot of, shall we say, crud-covered bikes coming into the workshop. But don't shy away. Do come see us if you do have any questions or if you're having any issues with your bike. The will's a limit. There's nothing that we can't do down there. So if you have any problems, just come see us. We've got a store in Ferrybridge and also in Epworth, and we are happy to help with any bike, be it road bike, mountain bike, e-bike. We're there to help.
So that's the end of our winter maintenance tips. This video is mainly focused around road bikes and gravel bikes. We will do a separate one on mountain bikes, but thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments or get in touch. We'll be happy to help.